Already it's impacted our business because it's reduced the amount of volume of business that's out there.
Jeff Bowman is the CEO of Cocona Labs, which makes a compound used in fabric.
We have a technology called 37.5 technology. The purpose of it is to remove humidity from the microclimate next to your skin. That helps you stay more comfortable in both warm and cold weather conditions. And it helps you operate at a peak performance. If you're an athlete, you can operate at peak performance longer. And what we do is we mine a mineral in the United States. Essentially, it's a volcanic sand. We convert that into what's called master batch, which is a concentration of that mineral that's then put into the spinning operations for things like nylon and polypropylene and polyester. They make filaments and yarns out of that. Those yarns and filaments are then made into fabrics. Those fabrics are made into clothing or bedding or footwear. And we make money by selling the master batch, which we make in the United States. Primarily, we export that because most yarn spinners are outside of the United States. And then we also license the technology to brands that use it. Sleep Number for bedding, the Men's Warehouse for clothing, Solomon for technical clothing. If they're hunters, they know First Light. So there's well over 100 brands that we license the technology to.
And that's a proprietary process?
It is. It's very difficult to take a water-loving mineral and put it into manufacturing operations that hate water. So we have patents on it and a ton of trade secrets. You know, we're very cognizant of keeping those trade secrets secret.
The United States is the world's second largest exporter of textiles. It used to be first, employing 1.5 million workers, but now it employs only about 470,000, as China has risen to become the #1 producer.
We do have customers in the United States. Generally, the spinners outside the United States are more competitive from a price standpoint, and they've got more capacity, more infrastructure. You know, decades ago, most of that did reside in the United States. It eventually moved outside of the United States. China, at one point in time, decided that it was a strategic industry, so they worked with their business people to develop that infrastructure. And now that's primarily where most of it's done today. India is also a big export country for us as well.
The tariffs being imposed by the Trump administration affect a textile business like Cocona Labs, both in the cost of its raw products and, ironically, in its exports to places like China.
People are not placing orders because they're uncertain in terms of what the ultimate pricing is going to be. I spent this morning, all morning, talking to my team about a business that we're working on right now with one of the largest hotel chains in the United States. They're looking to incorporate our technology in their bedding. And one of the questions that we're getting from our Chinese partners who would be spinning the yarn for that is how should they price the yarn based on the tariffs? And of course, that's a very difficult question for us to answer. We did export some product to China last week. We ate the tariff ourselves of about 16.5%. We actually ate 10% of that. Previously, there was 6.5% tariff in place already. So it's kind of a wait and see right now. But in the short term, it is reducing the amount of business that's out there. And it's reducing the amount of investment that people are willing to make in new products. Specific to us, because we're a small company that exports as opposed to imports, from China and India and those other places, the reciprocal tariffs also impact us. And when Trump first announced, the large tariffs on China, China retaliated with a 145% tariff. That would have been a killer for us. It would have killed our business. We just happened to have a bunch of our product in our Shanghai warehouse at the time. So within 36 hours, we were able to sell that to our customers, move it out of the warehouse, and that bought us a few months tariff-free. We're waiting to see what's going to happen with the tariffs. It impacts our business in several ways. We're also trying to develop a domestic business in those countries. So this shirt is an example. It's a shirt made in China, and it's sold to Chinese customers. And when the price of the yarns increase, then it impacts the price of the finished products, and it impacts our business.
They charge us, we charge them.
In pursuing his approach to tariffs, President Trump has said again and again, one of his main goals is to bring manufacturing back on shore in the United States. Would that work out that way in your business?
No, definitely not. You'd have to cut and sew this garment or bedding or any other garment. You'd have to make that garment in the United States. And people just don't want those jobs, number one. And number two, the cost of labor here is so much higher that the price of those goods would dramatically increase if they're made in the United States. So it would make everything much more expensive. Even the deal with Vietnam is a case in point. I don't think most people understand that those goods coming into the United States already had a tariff on them. In the case of clothing coming from Vietnam, as an example, there was a 16.5% tariff before Trump. With the additional 20% that was just negotiated, that means that there's a 36.5% tariff on apparel now coming into the United States from Vietnam. Some of that's going to get passed on, there's no question about it. So the price of goods will go up. With the increase in the price of goods, the amount of business will go down. Trump and I both went to the same business school, Wharton. And apparently he didn't take the tariff class because certainly the teachings and the empirical history shows that when you impose tariff, the net effect is that you reduce the amount of business that takes place. And we're seeing that happen already. Costs go up, consumers pay the price eventually, and there's just less business being conducted.
Whatever proves out from President Trump's tariffs, at this point it appears there are going to be tariffs. We already see 15% effective, and in some places it could be higher than that. So assuming that happens, let's assume for a moment it's 15 to 20% effective tariff. What do you do to change your business to make sure it's still a good business, it's viable?
Well, what we have been doing is, number one, making sure that our customers have options. So we ship master batch around the world. We ship it to Turkey, we ship it to India, Taiwan, China, Korea, et cetera, making sure that they have options so that so we can mitigate the tariffs, hopefully, in any one country. That's the first thing that we're doing. And second is, we're looking at, in some cases, potentially moving some of our manufacturing out of the United States into China, something that we're loath to do, just to reduce the reciprocal tariffs that are being placed on our goods. Ultimately it will help with the cost of goods coming back to the United States. It'll certainly help even more with the goods that are being sold into those countries. We're worried about tariffs. Candidly, we shipped a master batch to China 2 weeks ago. We paid 16.5% tariff on it. We ate 10% of that. That's not sustainable for us long term. We'd have to raise our prices. When we raise our prices, it will ultimately affect the amount of volume that's being sold, so it's not good.
How elastic or inelastic is that demand for your product? What pricing power do you have to pass along some or all of those increases?
We have to pass on some, otherwise we'll go out of business. And there's that trade-off, and that's in fact what I was talking about this morning. Our Chinese partners are trying to figure out how to price their yarn for this very large hotel chain opportunity. And they want to know how to account for the tariffs. And we don't have an answer for them, candidly, other than to tell them that we're not going to eat that tariff. We may eat a portion of it. I think we're waiting to see what ultimately happens and what the tariffs actually end up being. And then we'll adjust accordingly as best we can. There will be collaboration, I'm sure, throughout the supply chain. Ultimately, you'll see higher prices at the consumer level.
And if, in fact, these tariffs continue, what's going to happen to your employment situation?
In general, we don't lay anybody off. We were actually voted one of the top 50 small companies in the United States to work for last year. So, we value our employees greatly and try to hold on to them, definitely. During COVID, everybody took a pay cut for a period of time, just so that we could survive. So we'll do what we have to do to survive. We'll do what we have to do to hold on to our employees. Ideally, we'll do what we have to do to continue manufacturing in the United States. We're very adaptable.
As difficult as the tariffs may be for Cocona Labs business, Bowman does believe they deserve to have a role in economic policy, just not quite as broad a role as they are being given.
If you got to sit down with your fellow Wharton graduate in the White House and give him a piece of your mind about what he should be doing, what would you advise him?
Well, I think tariffs are a strategic tool. I think if they're used surgically, they can help. I think broad brush tariffs don't work, in my opinion, so I would encourage him to be surgical about it. We're a small American company trying to do business in China, where historically there has been very little tariff of our goods going into China. It's still very difficult to do business in China because of the non-tariff barriers to doing business. Things like the banking laws and the marketing laws and the administrative issues that you have to deal with on a daily basis. And it's not clear to me that this tariff war that we're in is going to impact any of that. All I see happening is that we're going to increase the price of goods coming into the United States. We're not going to address the fundamental issues that are making it difficult for companies like mine to do business in places like China. And that's those non-tariff barriers to doing business.
Whether it's to break down barriers to U.S. exports or to discourage production abroad, one of President Trump's main goals is increasing U.S. manufacturing overall, something special contributor Larry Summers of Harvard says tariffs will not accomplish.
This isn't a debate about whether manufacturing's important or not. That's an important debate to have as we go forward. But even if you take as given the central importance of cutting-edge manufacturing, taxing inputs, alienating partners, and enraging those who control the external markets can't possibly be the right strategy for rebuilding American manufacturers. Look, take another way of looking at this. We think of automobiles as like a traditional industry that we're trying to protect in a good way. But this is slashing General Motors' profits. This is slashing, all the automobile companies are complaining about our tariff policies because what they mean for integrated production in North America. So even for the people who were the traditional constituency for this kind of policy, they're not seeing it as a positive. So this is not some debate between the coastal people who like finance and movies as businesses and the people in the middle of the country who are focused on the heartland of manufacturing. Even if you just look at what you're doing for the heartland of manufacturing, higher priced inputs, much more uncertainty for investors, and alienating of customers can't be the right strategy. There's a winner here. There really is a winner here in the strategy that we are pursuing. His name is Xi Jinping, and I hope we'll stop.